Greetings, welcome back everyone to Into the Auto Attack ETC, the show all about only auto attacking on ETC. I'm Garrett Weinzierl here with the only auto attacking ETC, Kyle Fergusson.
No, surely it's gotten better. I actually haven't checked, but I'm still auto attacking on you. No, I'm doing other things. I'm a good boy. I explore. I try things.
You know, I saw two of your games last night, and they were both auto attack ETC. So as far as I'm concerned, you play auto attack ETC 100% of the time in Heroes of the Storm. That's all you do.
That's fair. Well, it's solo queue after all. Like, I can say to myself, will my teammates stand by me? Will they take advantage of what I'm doing? Or could I carry myself? And looks like the pick rate's up 1.3%. So we were at 5% before the buff. Now people are taking it a whole 1.3 higher. Let me actually just see the most recent patch. 16%. We're up a whole 11%, Garrett.
16.5, dude. You're closing in on 17% popularity. That is still pathetic compared to Block Party at 30% popularity and Prog Rock at almost 55% popularity, but we're moving the needle, man. And when I say we, I mean you.
All right. There's something horribly wrong. Like, I'm not trying to troll anybody. I'm not trying to, spread misinformation. But according to the bottom here, the full auto attack build with the hammer on improved, with the aggressive shredding, with Encore because it's crazy OP and it's awesome. 31% win rate on that whole build, apparently.
Whoa. All right. That's terrible.
That is terrible. I'm not sure.
That is real bad.
I think people don't have the love. That's the problem, is they're like, I'm going to do the auto attack build because it's OP. They lose, and they're like, well, what went wrong? It's because you don't love auto attacking. It's free. It's literally free. It couldn't be better than free.
They just may not have the Rocky Mountain oysters, man. They might be steers out there instead of bulls.
It might be just, let's see. Let's get another source here. Not even making the charts on Hero's profile. So no, apparently.
Oh, that's great.
Apparently, I'm just some weirdo. We all knew I was a bit odd, but crud. Hey, where do you want to go? Because we can go straight into stuff. There's stuff going on, and that Encore is nuts. But we can talk about it in a moment.
Okay.
How has your week been in Heroes?
Not good. Well, actually, let me walk that back a bit. It was very good until last night. I've been, again, just frolicking in the land of non-ranked because something caught my eye, and that something is my old flame, Kyle. There's nothing like an old flame to just, insert jealous girlfriend meme here send you down that thought. And it was Tyrande, man. Those Tyrande changes, if nothing else, reminded me of her existence. And so basically just been playing Tyrande since we wrapped our show last Thursday. And it was going real well. Had some real success and just some pickup games. A little Storm League here and there didn't take her in. And then last night I was like, you know what? I think I'm feeling comfortable. I feel like she fits. A lot of games that I get into, I feel like I lose from not enough CC, so I get to come in, I get to do a little healing, I get to be a higher than average damage providing healer, nothing crazy, but I bring a little bit more to the table, and I can bring a stun with me. That's going to be great. And I just got owned, man. They, it wasn't a first pick Tyrande, but no one else was showing, so I early picked Tyrande, and the other team just goes Deathwing, just slams it on the table, and I'm just like, well, first my thought was, if I take the Sentinel talent at 13 that Kyle and I butted heads against, and I have to eat crow on, definitely still very much worth taking that talent. My first thought was, do I get a small Deathwing? Does he get little? Because I don't know.
Does he?
I haven't played Tyrande, and I can't remember the last time I had a Tyrande on my team against a Deathwing. And the answer is yes, he does. You get a little Deathwing. It's great. It's so good, man. Your Lunar Flares ain't stunning the Deathwing, man. It's just it's pointless.
What about Hunter's Mark? Does that work?
I believe so. I don't know. I wasn't paying attention. Wasn't paying close enough attention. I would assume it would, because it's not. It should work.
Yeah, because that's armor.
Chat rooms, it's armor reduction, so
yeah,
it should work. Yeah, chat room saying
because that's interesting.
Does need work.
I mean, a whole part of your kit, of course, is the stun, but armor removal on heroes that are based on armor can be crazy huge.
Yeah, it just, but it didn't work out. Didn't pan out. So not enough games to really make a call, but maybe later picking would be good. But really, man, what happened was like my classic tank experience in World of Warcraft. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Not quite.
All right, you don't play WoW anymore, but you liked healing, right? Yeah.
Oh yeah, well, love healing.
Did you ever try getting off healing? Going into a dungeon or a raid on a different spec?
Sure.
Ever experience looking at other healers going, what in God's name are you doing?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was me the second I got out of the solo lane on a Toronto pick in a draft game. That was just, everything went to hell. Like absolute hell. Really bummed me out, and I was just going, why is this happening? What is going on? Why is anyone doing what? Why is there a Gul'dan there when we have a Zero tool? What's going on? And I'm gonna need to adjust my mentality if I'm gonna draft more Tyrande or other supports, because that was a difficult mental hurdle to get over, which was just judging the living hell out of whoever was trying to solo lane.
Interesting. There's a lot going on in the game right now. Tyrande is up 2%, which is pretty nice with this patch. The stats are really weird right now. They don't really tell a clear story, because we can say that Chromie's running wild.
I was about to say, I was like, there is a clear story, and it's Chromie. Yeah. That's the clear story.
But not all of it matches up perfectly. Like Stukov is up about 7%. Granted, we're still working with one patch of information, but still, that's pretty intense for Stukov to be so high when you think that there's a dude standing still back there. He has a very low win rate into Chromie, though. So he's getting that lunge somewhere else. I'm not sure where we're going right now. I can tell you what my experience in the game is very much shifted. There is a barrier at Diamond 3 where basically you go from playing with just diamonds, people in your area, to maybe high plat. And when you get into Diamond 2, suddenly you fight masters, and your games are full of masters and grandmasters all of a sudden, which is quite the mental shift as a tank player, to go from I'm managing whatever, woo, like everyone's running around, it's a petting zoo, like kids calm down, to structured, you protect me, I'll carry kind of fights. And it's interesting how you can go from one game. But so another interesting comment too is that Masters players play so much because they've grounded up to Masters that they don't really notice names anymore. So one game you'll get in a guy who hates your guts, just hates you, hates everything you perform, all your executions. Have that same person on your team the next game, you're a god. You're ETC god. You're amazing. You're the best thing on the planet. And all you could be like is like, yeah, man, it was a good mosh, huh? Yeah, nice job. No, you did a nice job. You did a nice job. Because you're not gonna be like, hey, where were you last game? And they're gonna be like, whoa, you were the crap ETC. I'm so mad. Not gonna remind them.
You're not worth the memory slot in their brain, dude. So yeah.
No, but to be fair, their memory slots are made of like a million other people that they see in organized play all the time, ex-pros that are playing around there, fans 20 accounts, like they have memories for those things because they're always running into it. But me, who was just on the cusp, just a visitor in Masters Town.
I had to leave last night. How did that game against fans Smurf go?
Oh, he was on my side. So
it was on your side. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. For some reason, I thought it was on the other, but I had to go. I was curious. I wanted to see the outcome of that. I meant to watch it later that night, but I fell asleep.
So, no, it was interesting. I got to check out Fan's stream. He was very critical, but it was in a I'm the carry kind of deduction way. So it wasn't all useful information for him, and I don't blame him because he's been to Masters, Grandmasters a million times on so many different accounts. To him, I was always supposed to be in front of him on Diablo, and he's Rainer. But there was a Jaina, a Lunara. There was just a lot of damage for Diablo. So I was being very skulky, being very in the bushes, doing ganks, and I made use of Spell Shield at 1 or Soul Shield, and that's a very big improvement for me. That's not a talent I've really used in the past, but something I've been working on. And I think I did pretty damn well avoiding just dying outright. But it was if I remember correctly, it was a Uther Imperious comp. So for Diablo, right? If I'm the one who receives that with a Jaina, Lunar on the enemy side, I'm dead. But in fans' eyes, I'm dead, and now they're on cooldown, and he kills everybody, right?
Yeah.
So it's one of those weird things where it's like, as a tank, my thought process was, I'm gonna skulk around, attack Jaina and Lunara. You all are gonna receive all the CC. That sucks. I'm sorry, but you won't be dead on the other side while I tank the damage. By doing this backline Diablo business, we're all gonna spread out the damage in the various CCs, and nobody dies, which is quite heroic. It's a good thing. It's a good advertisement line. And we won that rather handily. But I absolutely see where these masters and grandmasters come from. It's always be more aggressive. What are you doing?
Trying not to die is the answer to that question.
Try not to die. Try not to be look like a boob out there. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't look like a boob. But to them, non-aggression is it looks a lot like a boob.
Yeah.
What you gonna do, Kyle?
Keep playing.
Keep grinding. Keep grinding, man.
I'm having a good time.
Yeah. Rad. Well, we're going to talk about the meta fallout. We're going to get the strategy, and we're going to talk about 20s that are old, moldy, and need some love. So we got a good show for you today. If you want to support us, if you like Into the Nexus, and you want to support our independent Heroes of the Storm podcast here, you can do so by checking out patreon.com/ITN. We get to spend a lot of time prepping this show, and it's because of you. We wouldn't be able to without the Patreon. So thank you very much. If you want to support us, that's the best way to do so. You're going to get access to the Discord, to our patron games we do every month. We're doing it tonight, getting together with our patrons, playing some games of Heroes of the Storm. And to our most recent patron, Sir Charles, spelled with a Z. I don't know who knighted you, but I'm glad they did.
Yeah. Good use of your knighthood.
I knight you, awesome patron of Into the Nexus. I guess it would be Sir, awesome patron of Into the Nexus.
Well, we Sir, and then there's the mini title, right? You wouldn't double up the title.
Well, would you like Sir to the power of 2?
This is like the Reckoning kind of thing, right? You have your normal movie title, but then below it, like Curse of the Black Pearl. Why? Did they know they were going to make more? I thought you look up the history of that thing, it looked like they thought it was going to fail, but they still decided it needed a subtitle.
Yeah. Patrons, new episode of Weak Sauce for you to listen to. You should go check that out.
Yes.
We talk about Pirates of the Caribbean.
We do. We talk about a lot of movies.
Oh boy, it goes all over the place. It is literally the podcast I tell people they should never make, where it just wanders aimlessly from topic to topic. But it's so much fun to do with your friend.
It's a valve, right? We let loose that steam of off-topic conversation, so it's not here on Into the Nexus, where we talk about Heroes of the Storm mostly.
It's almost like we're in our mid-30s and we have to schedule hangout time with our friends.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah, it happens. So anyways, thank you for the support, everybody. Check out patreon.com/ITN. And now let's get into this week's Heroes of the Storm news.
We're on, boys! Ha-ha! Let's liven up this place!
The moment is upon us.
Yes, I'd mana tap that.
Folks aren't happy with the recent patch, Kyle.
This was a shock to me.
It doesn't shock me too much. I don't think it's as much of a shock to me. But
yeah,
I would say the volume of the unhappiness is a shock.
I didn't realize we were rating patches. Grubby's video review rated the patch, and I feel like we've been missing out. I know we did like this whole like balance summation thing we added on, and we like go through the patch and we talk about the impact and like we do research and stuff, but we haven't been sitting around doing Kyle Garrett reacts, taking pictures of our shocked faces, putting it up on the web. We've been doing the internet wrong.
I mean, I know you're doing a bit, but I agree with that. We probably should have started doubling down into YouTube a long time ago because there's a lot more discoverability and growth there than there are in podcasts, especially now because nobody's freaking commuting anywhere. So listeners to podcasts are actually down a major percentage across the entire board. But thank you for sending me to my anxiety spiral that has been happening since coronavirus hit. I really appreciate it.
Sorry.
Yeah, man. I'm so torn on this. My gut, man, like at my soul, a little real talk here. Okay. I freaking hate ratings. I hate them. I think they're the most useless, garbage, basic human instinct that gets you nowhere. It's one of the most reductive things in the world. And yet, you know what I do, Kyle? When I need something, I need like a new battery for my camera and I don't want to pay full price because Sony batteries are ridiculous. So I need to know what knockoff is good. I go to Amazon and I look at the number of stars. So I do it too. I can't help it. But when I think about it for something that I'm really into, that I have a lot of passion for, whether it's cars, video games, the genre of pop punk, these are things I'm really into. I have a lot of passion about. I don't want to see a damn review. I don't want to see a review score. I don't want to see X out of 10. I don't want to see X stars out of 5. I find it, that's when it really annoys me. But when I'm, passively interested in something, or I need to make up my mind quickly, then I love them. I can't get enough of them, Kyle. Oh, thank you. 517 people on Amazon that rated this battery. I know that it's 4 out of 5 stars and it's half the price of what else I was looking at. I'm going with
you're
this.
Talking about nuance. You become an expert in a field, or you have enough understanding in order to make your own decisions, and ratings become really, really bad.
Yep.
Or you start to enjoy things that are rated badly for the reason you enjoy them, like me in Darkest Dungeon. It constantly, every time there's a sale, it shoots down in reviews because it's hard. Oh, it was unforgiving. I'm like, well, that's kind of the point. It's the Darkest Dungeon. People go insane in the dungeon. That's the theme.
It's like reviewing habanero. It's like reviewing ghost pepper hot sauce, saying it's too hot. 1 star.
Right.
It's like, wait, that's what you were getting into. Like, what are you doing? I bought a Dodge Hellcat. It's too fast. Like. What did you think was going to happen?
Or the cinnamon challenge, or any of these other dumb challenges people do. Because as a kid, you were like, cinnamon, I love cinnamon. So you took a little pinch of it and then, just on your tongue there. And you're like, well, that was a horrible idea. And then they're going at it with a spoonful, not sure what's going to happen.
So a lot of this, though, isn't applicable to the idea of trying to suss out whether a patch, an update to a game is good or bad, or a degree of in between, right? Like, that's not applicable because we're not shopping for Heroes of the Storm patches and saying, you know what, I'll try this one, and then going, no. You know what? I went for the underpicked talent patch, and I don't like it because all it does is shore up underpicked talents. No, it is. We just get the patch that we get, and we're left with it. And so I got like one more kind of meta discussion about just content creation and people like you and I that some folks listen to. Which is like when I say that I think rating something is a useless exercise that is overly reductive, I'm not blaming Grubby because it's fine. It's great. It grabs attention. It gives you a decent idea of what you're about to go and watch when you go watch that video. And you watch the video, and there's a shit ton of nuance. Yeah. Grubby goes through every single one of his thoughts, and that's great. What chaps my ass is when people just go and parrot that rating, or we just get comments that are their own ratings. It's like, I, for one, think it's a 3 out of, like, who gives a shit what your opinion is? Like,
well, it's an interesting phenomenon because when we reviewed the patch, I saw a lot of changes that incentivize new things. The Cassia nerf actually had, on release anyway, a 5% impact on her win rate. Right now it's settled to around 2%, but she fell down rather dramatically, and lots of people rose up. Tracer, Chromie, Orphea, Tassadar, Probius regained all their spots because Cassia went down, and a lot of our other sustain damage went back up. So that simple change, which was too small for the audience, ended up working out. And, whether they run like bot computer simulations all night or enter a number and it has some sort of like algorithm that tells of Is that enough? I'm not sure if it's just a feeling by the balance designers, but clearly people wanted content, not balance. And that's where I think the 5 out of 10 comes from, or lower.
Is it like, I don't know, like it's we're straddling two different things here. Like, are we having a conversation about like Grubby's rating? Or are we having a conversation about the community's reaction to Grubby's rating? Because I think it's more the latter, right?
Yeah, a little bit of both.
Again, like, you know, I watched Grubby's video. I thought it was great, really good insight and some great points. And I didn't. When you say content, I think like new heroes or a new event or something like that. And no point does that even get mentioned. Grubby's points were more about like, oh, well, maybe we should have focused on X instead of Y, balance wise. Like he still very much like accepted it for what it was and had suggestions or desires within the framework of this is a balance patch.
Well, what I'm saying is that, are we pursuing balance? And to the audience, particularly represented here on Reddit, no, to them, balance patches are content. They don't want, they want Cassia nerfed, not because Cassia is overly imbalanced, but because Cassia is receiving all the bans because she's in every single game. That is an impact of being overpowered. But they want things to fall down dramatically so others rise up, because that keeps the stone rolling and keeps them playing. Which is really interesting because Chromie rose up and Junkrat slightly rose up, and there were all these little, shifts around that happened. But initially, it wasn't the roller coaster people expected. And it's interesting. In a competitive game, that is content. If you went through World of Warcraft and you said, okay, it's been 3 weeks, we're going to buff Shaman healing and we're going to nerf Priest healing. I see that as them pursuing balance. I don't get any content out of that because I'm playing a PvE game for the most part. There's, of course, PvP people. But in a PvP strictly game, you do that changes the meta. Also, it's a time investment on World of Warcraft. If you go nerfing my hero, I'm not going to be like, oh no, guess I'm going to jump over to my fully geared alt I have ready of the other classes that got buffed.
So I guess where still don't quite follow you, as you're saying that your read on the situation is that they wanted Cassia nerfed. Cassia got nerfed and it worked. So,
but it wasn't enough. It wasn't dramatic enough of a hammer to represent their dislike of the character.
So you want an overcorrection for the sake of the drama of it, for the headline of it, for the perception of it.
And for the content in the game it provides. Because when we take out Cassia, we get Raynor Rising, Zul'jin Rising, whatever you feel is being held back. I always think of the old days. And every time anyone ever complains about mobility, I think of Ravenous Spirit. And when this game came out, there was no Jaina, there was no Kael'thas, and Ravenous Spirit Nazebo was the magey of mageness, and it was called OP, and it had too much chase and speed and mobility, and Diablo was known as hypermobile back then. Like, it's all about a bit of perspective too.
Yeah, fair. So,
like, delete Genji, delete Avatar, delete this and that, and there'll just be the new thing to delete. At the end of the day, no matter what you remove, there will be someone that takes that spot.
Yes, yeah, but where do we go? Like, is this an actionable conversation? Like, where's the end of this conversation? I guess because that's true. But I don't know. I guess to a certain degree, I see where you're going now, and I don't necessarily disagree. I don't think I disagree with you at all because when I was going to say, like, if we were to entertain this idea of giving a patch a score out of X amount out of 10, I think this is kind of like right in the middle. This was a subtle patch. Probably one of the most subtle patches we've gotten. But we've had patches like this in the past. Like, how many times have we kind of blown through the majority of a patch because we're like, underpicked talent. There's not a huge conversation to be had there because if it's an underpicked talent, we're not interfacing with it. Even if we don't even play the hero, if we go against the hero or play alongside the hero, they're not picking those talents. So, like, we have no frame of reference for how it currently performs to really have a good, like, at least at the base level, anecdotal experience of how that's going to improve, right? maybe certain very specific exceptions being things like Zero Tools 20s. They showed up last week because it's just like, we can very clearly look at that and go, that's nice. There's a reason the other 220s are just dominant, and this isn't enough to move the needle.
Right. The perfect example of something boring from the previous patch to me is the mana return on Muradin's auto attacks. 3 mana per auto attack after he's completed his quest, so he doesn't have mana tension. That is dull, dusty, boring stuff. But
yeah, it is, unless
balance.
I don't know. I'd like to hear from like hardcore Muradin players on that, because if like something like that happened on Sonya's a bad example, but in past when we've messed with like rage or self regen, like on Sonya, when we messed with their self regen, that was pretty subtle. I was stoked as could be about it.
Sure, and I'm the one still talking about, or you brought up on this episode, but ETC auto attack, right? But that's the kind of content that I know AZ Jackson is providing us when he goes through, and in that particular, stance, basically saying in the ETC comments that we know he's really good. I'm going to do this anyway because it's fun. That's content. Upgrading Chromie's W completely. Now, it ran away. Chromie is a really big deal right now. She's up 7.4%. She has a 65% win rate with the W build. It is spammy. It is wild. It takes less aiming and subtlety than the Sandblast build in the first place. So why not just cast a butt ton of Dragon Breaths all over the team fight? They're doing Temporal Loop too, because it gives you a 500% cooldown reduction. So you have a 1.8-second cooldown on your Dragon Breath. So you're just like, goosh, 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 goosh. It's awesome. Feels fun. Don't have to aim too hard. But that was not a balance maneuver. That was content provided to Chromie players, just as ETC was content provided to ETC players.
Whatever you say, man. 3 out of 10.
It's curious. What I'd like to end on here for this conversation is, yes, some of our balance patches may be boring. If we were pursuing true balance, I think these patches would be absurdly boring. And I know I'm in that special perspective being a tank player, but I am so happy about the subtle nerfs to OP assassins, because it means the tanks don't get banned. And I can tell you right now, in Heroes Lounge, in NGS coming up, people do research. And I get a Diablo ban, an ETC ban, and sometimes a Mal'Ganis ban. And I'm sitting on a weird pile of heroes at that point. And it's weird, because when you can actually research the enemy team and say, oh, they don't have a Chromie, they don't have an Abathur, they don't have a Lost Vikings, they don't have Tassadar, name your other, Storm League solo queue ban heroes. The bans are kind of stale.
It's a big consideration.
Yeah.
Which we're still waiting to find out if there will be any consideration for league play in future balance matches. But yeah, at the end of the day, I get where a lot of this is coming from. I just think a lot of it is not constructive. Like, it's just like some of the top comments that got traction were just things like, this is what I think out of 10, and I don't like it. There's no constructive criticism in it whatsoever. And I'm just here to tell you, that's useless. Like, you're not helping. You're not giving any actionable information. You're not explaining like why you don't like it. I think the furthest one of the comments got was like, the meta's still stale. And it's like, okay, what do you actually want to change?
Well, and that's the absurdity and joy of Heroes of the Storm, is that...
Well, and my rub is just like, we've been through this before. I don't know why suddenly, I know why, it's Grubby's video, but why suddenly are we forgetting that we've been through subtle patches and even like less subtle patches? Like, when we've thrown nerfs at damn near permabanned heroes, it has taken almost entire patch cycles, if not multiple patch cycles, for them to actually stop receiving bans. Like, how many conversations have we had on this show where we've gone, we should probably stop banning X, shouldn't we? And we both go, yep. And then we have a guest on, like, not Paradox or Bahamut, and they're like, yeah, you should probably stop banning X. But it doesn't matter. It's trickle down is slow. You can make adjustments. This patch is a particularly bad example because it is subtle, but you can make adjustments all you want. It takes a while for us and popular opinion to reach a point where it actually affects the draft.
Well, and let me tell you a success story. First, with a little bit of perspective. Remember Blessings of the Bronze? The Chromie talent that activate to cause Chromie and all allies to gain 20% movement speed. Their basic abilities recharge 35% faster for 8 seconds. We saw that in the patch notes and went, oh my God. Holy, Chromie's a team player. She's going to hit that button. 4% pick rate. The absurdity that we thought was incoming on a Chromie wave ended up being a lot of nothing because people wanted Piercing Sands back. That is what was previously part of her core kit. 83% of people pick at 20 because I'm in solo queue. I want to kill people. I don't want to help all these weirdos. I don't know them, but I, Chromie, need to get some damn kills, and I'm going to win this game for us. I'm carrying after all. So we all a little reacted to Encore being absurd. And it is absurd. It encourages absurd gameplay.
Hold on, wait a second. What do you mean? What is this Wii business?
Which part?
By we, you're implicating me. And I was just like, tell me about it, Kyle. Tell me your thoughts.
All right. Well, the community thought it was going to be absurd and too much. I think it's going to be wacky and fun because I wanted to play AMP anyway. I was saying that the previous weeks. I just had no reason to because it was going to ruin everybody's skill shots. So Encore has become, with its recent update, that whenever it knockbacks a hero, AMP included, that you get an 8% cooldown on your heroic ability, Face Melt or Stage Dive. That is now the highest pick rate talent at 43. Not horrible, but it's the lowest win rate talent. So despite all of our gassing and belly aching about how this might ruin the game and ETC is going to be running wild, you're actually way more safe to still do mic check. Though I love doing Encore this week. There's nothing quite as enjoyable as being on cooldown on Mosh Pit and being like, all right, guys, I'm going to go screw with the enemy team. I'm just going to go, and then you run away. You power slide away, not hitting anybody because you're just working on your heroic cooldown.
Well, it's important to remember the importance of how something feels, right? Because we've had a lot of heroes adjusted based on that. And just because the win rate isn't necessarily high doesn't mean that it feels absolutely god-awful to lose to.
No, and there's a hole that I think needs plugging on that because you can't, when you are going to mosh pit and you get interrupted and you're stuck on 8-second cooldown. Mm-hmm. If you face melt right after that, you don't have a cooldown anymore. Ooh. It reduces the forced cooldown.
Oh, that's dirty.
So there was a fight last night where I was going, got interrupted. Like I just kept jamming.
That's the kind of thing. That's the kind of thing that I don't care what the win rate is like. I don't want to deal with that. Like I don't want my perception, my knowledge of interrupting a mosh pit and the reward that I feel to be completely and utterly undercut because of this talent.
But it's not winning terribly high, so it's not absurdly OP as we thought it would be looking at the patch notes.
My point, though, is that didn't stop them from nerfing Genji, and that didn't stop them from nerfing Tracer.
True.
So that's just kind of my thought there, but whatever the case is. Yeah. Any other thoughts? Kind of on where the meta has nestled down into, because I'm still seeing Cassia bans.
Yeah, Cassia's still getting banned. I don't see her picked a lot. I see Varians with Taunt picked up into her. I see an abundance of CC being drafted. So people have really learned to deal with Cassia when it does get through. I think it has some really strong weaknesses. It wasn't really the best way to say it, but you know what I mean. It can be easily countered if you can draft correctly for it. I mean, an absurd example would be doing Varian Stukov to just taunt it so the armor goes away and then you silence her and she's got nothing left. She's dead. All those sort of inventions are being invented, just as I feel like Diablo is, helping gatekeep the Tassadar right now. So we're seeing more Diablo bans than Tassadars because he has his counters. So do we need to nerf Mei further? That sounds really weird to me because she's very hard ETC at this point. And people have learned to dodge Avalanche, to sidestep. It's like fighting Kerrigan. Mei, she goes in a straight line. She's going to do the thing. She engaged kind of back. She wants to push you just like the Falstad and the Muradin before her. You see it coming. So you change your angle and you dodge the snowball. It's not very thick. We are inventing our own counters.
Rad. I mean, I go back to your attempt to figure out the well-designed weakness. Like, I get what you're talking about. Like, it's a well-designed counter, like, or a place for a counter to exist, which is interesting. It's worth calling out. Something about a May in the lead, man, still, that just, like, feels horrible.
The what now?
Like, if you're behind against a May, it's just
it's
just like, wow, she just gets to do whatever she wants.
I mean, she's kind of got that Uther problem with the amount of self-healing she has. Her self-healing from behind is awful. From ahead, it's too much.
Yeah, actually, dude, nail on the head. Yeah.
How do you... It's kind of a Zeratul problem that way, too. Like, how do you recover from a stun? How do you hit that stun on players that are above level on you and confident? I mean, that, honestly, a little side journey here, is my biggest hurdle right now in playing in any sort of coordinated zone. I am so used to using tilt as a factor that I make some bad choices. Because, like, for instance, I think in one of our recent games, we had a 17-minute Dragon Knight. It was the first one of the whole game. Lots of back and forth, ring around the rosy.
Woo.
We get that Dragon Knight, we take it in the bottom, bam, fort, and keep. And I'm like, yeah, 17 minutes, let's hang out, let's see what happens. Let's get some kills, let's mess with them. Maybe we get a stagger and we go for core, we win. And the enemy team was in like full morale. They were fine. They were all coming at us, still performing their combos. No one was typing in the background or flaming each other because we lost they lost the dragon there. And tilt is such a factor that I'm used to in Storm League that I'm making a lot of shots based on that. Like, oh, they're demoralized, let's do it. No, they're used to this. They lose games all the time. They win games all the time. They're going to keep playing to their full performance.
That's sick.
So I'm having to cool my jets. It's been a blast, though. I really encourage anybody who has the time and the means to get involved with a NGS or Heroes Lounge team.
Gotcha. Are you ready to talk about the Smurfs?
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that.
All right. So, CCL's coming up, and the Smurfs are here, man. EU players coming on the NA servers to get masters and grandmasters because you need to be in order to have the chance to participate in CCL.
We fought one of these. It was a Lost Vikings murky duo from the EU, apparently. Grandmasters over there.
Oh, man. That may be a duo I have never played against and gives me extreme fear just thinking about it.
Yeah, we fought them the game before that, and they did Abathur Gazlo. So we're like, well, we're banning that. We don't want to fight that again, and they just brought something else out. Apparently, there is a number of groups from the EU who have been smurfing over here in hopes of participating. They got very quickly to Masters, because they're good. They're good. And, they're basically on Smurfs at that point. They're just using another region. We thought it'd be over, but sadly, they believe their chances so high that they are sticking around to practice with the ping. So the Smurfocalypse continues, particularly in Plat, is really where you're seeing the most suffering right now, because it's kind of that gate where all the Smurfs who aren't maybe Insta Masters end up, and once you're in Diamond, everybody's a Smurf basically, or everyone's good enough to be a Smurf, so who cares? But poor Plats and Golds are really having a tough time right now.
I feel that a little bit. So, but like, what do you do, right? Like, this is a community-run tournament, They've got to draw a line in the sand somewhere for their own sanity.
And they did. I believe what they went through over at the CCL is they removed the requirement to be Masters, Grandmasters in NA. So that will stop some of that, but they're still practicing ping over here, which you can't blame them for because they're going to have to deal with that when the time comes.
Yeah, like that makes a lot of sense. And that's just an issue of the reality of an online game at a certain point.
And I don't really hate it because I think it's awesome. I think that's the way video games always should be. Now that we're in this internet sphere, like it's not about being at the local tournament, building a name for yourself. Like if you put in the hours online in rank, that should equal esports dumb. That's what we've always wanted. We want the football to be the football we play. So when we watch football, that's the football we play. And that's what we get, is you have to achieve the rank in the game to participate. And I think that's noble. I think that's awesome. but it has caused a small issue for a number of players.
Yeah, and smurfing has always been and will continue to be a very, very, very sensitive subject for the majority of the Heroes of the Storm community.
Right, and the worst part is that it affects those who are most vulnerable to it. At the same time, it's always funny because the Smurfs die a lot because they don't expect, Nazebo to wall there, and he did. And now they're stuck in a Nazebo wall, even though he normally would never cast in that way, and everybody dies, and the Smurf dies, which is kind of funny.
You gotta adapt, man.
Gotta be ready.
Oh, well, wondrous. Shall we talk about old and moldy 20s?
Let's do that.
Choose a talent.
Choose a talent.
Talent? Ah, that seems generous.
Don't reveal our plans to our foes. I mean it. Not a word.
All right, Kyle. So you had a great idea for today's kind of strategy discussion and just discussion in general, which is who needs better 20s? And I don't know if your jumping off point for this, what was this or not, but I was like, oh, perfect. Arthas just got a fantastic new version of an old and moldy 20. Death's Advance was boring.
This was actually spurred on by Ryokai, who sent us a link to a Reddit post that was all about Abathur 20 talents and Rewind being the best of them. So what can be done to spice them up? But overall, we do spend more time talking about our own heroes, the heroes we enjoy, the ones we interact with the most. And it would be interesting to dive into 20s and see what's going on there, because we do talk about Arthas way too much when it comes to 20s.
But real quick, do you think that's a good example? Like,
yeah,
old and moldy, now it's nice looking.
It's decent, right? It's not absurd, and I wonder how much of our absurdity is encapsulated in the more assassin side of things. That's healthier. We've got a lot of weird armor talents running around. Not all of them are perfect with one another, but he gave Tyrael armor. He can give himself shields. Does he deserve as much armor as Imperius gets? Or that's spell armor. Should he have normal armor? We're not doing bolts of the storm here. We're making them all unique. But there are those 20s in the game that I do feel like need to be brought up. And I went through and did some research on every single hero to see what their lowest pick rate talent was. And I found some real crazy outliers. Let's go ahead and just lead with the big one.
Okay, real quick to just save emails. Yes, Kyle meant Anubarak, not Abba. I was thinking the same thing.
Did I say Abba?
You did say Abba. I was thinking the same. I'm like, wait, Abathur doesn't have Rewind?
But that'd be useless.
Then I picked up on
maybe not awful.
You're in a good vibe, and I didn't want to stop you. But now that we're in between thoughts, I just wanted to just slip that in there. And okay, go ahead.
I could have said Alarak too. So it's a
maybe
Mal'Ganis Mephisto.
Maybe we're talking about Anubarak, which just got a much more themed version of his Burning Rage talent. So.
All right. Pardon me. Anubarak.
It's all right.
Need blue fire still. Blue fire, please. Kael'thas, Rebirth. This is where you increase Phoenix's duration by 100%. You may order your Phoenix to move to a different location once while the Phoenix is alive. This has a 1.7% pick rate.
Yes. So I was trying to think about this of just things I think could be cooler and less trying to shore up underpicked talents. Sometimes sometimes they are in the Ven, but not always. But what would you do? What would you do for Rebirth? Hit me with it.
I think we've made some cool options, such as tying other abilities to other abilities. So, for instance, Torbus on ETC. Sorry, I've been playing a lot of ETC, pardon me. But you miss your power slide. It doesn't go the way you wanted. So people sometimes pick Torbus because it instantly activates power slide, which is tied to the mosh pit because you can now move the mosh pit and reset its length and all that sort of thing. But we're using it in conjunction with this other ability. So how cool or crazy would it be to take Kael'thas's Rebirth and make it instantly reset the cooldown of Gravity Lapse? We take this idea that we're using in other heroes and translate it over. Or what about Chromie, right?
What would cause it to reset?
Just casting the Pyra or the Phoenix in this case. right? We have examples of these sort of things. Chromie with Temporal Loop has a cooldown reduction. She didn't used to have that back in the day. It was just all about the rewind part. So what if while Phoenix is active or when Phoenix damages people, we are giving cooldown reductions of some percent or some amount for each one of those Phoenix hits?
Something about that just seems odd to me, but I guess all of these are a little on the odd side, so I don't really have a good defense other than it feels weird. 3 out of 10.
Yeah, that could be. We have a lot of weird ones.
Yeah. So it's an interesting thought. Because, like, we like the other 20s on Kathos because it modifies his base kit, not his heroics. Like, those are the popular 20s. Like, Presence of Mind is also insanely underpicked.
Right, but that has a tie-in with Flame Strike, Living Bomb spreads, reducing cooldown. So I feel like we're in a time where we can't only go like upgrading the one heroic. We need to help it work with the rest of the kit.
Yeah, but what I'm saying with Presence of Mind is it's helping the heroic. It's not helping the Flame Strike or the Living Bomb. The Living Bomb and the Flame Strike are helping the Pyroblast. We're taking Master of Flames because it makes Living Bomb better. We're taking Flamethrower because it makes Flame Strike better.
Sure. Shorter cooldowns and all that sort of thing too. So
yeah,
those can be more effective.
In that way, it almost feels like it's like a per hero thing. It's like we as Kathos, the Kathos community, place more value on his base kit than his heroics. And that might just say something about his heroics or his power pie in general.
Right. There's also things that are, kind of lame or not based on getting kills, maybe I should say. No, certainly not in the lowest ranks here. But 9% pick rate, Galloping Gait on Lunara. Activate to increase movement speed of bonus Dryad Swiftness to 80% for 6 seconds. One of the few things we're doing in late game Lunara games is going, I need to be faster. I need to move. You're always thinking about how we need to kill everybody. We need to murder the enemy team faster. Not necessarily help clear lanes at that point.
Yeah, I mean, so what would you do there? Just like it's boring? Like,
I think we could still take in some of those lessons we're taking from these other heroes where the pick rates became more interesting. Look at our recent Anubarak change with the Burning Beetles. Like, that is fun. It's pretty damn good. It gives a little bit of lane clear, gives some damage. I mean, it's just plain enjoyable. And mixing those abilities with our other set abilities make them more seductive.
And that's a direction I really like for the game because it's like it's getting more flavorful while also affecting like actual gameplay. It's not just, the skin is awesome. It's like, this ability is completely different, but it's also more flavorful and more interesting.
And we're starting to see these, broken ideas on paper like Encore. And I'd love to see more things become broken in that way, such as Zul's 8% pick rate, Cold Hand of Death. Increase the slow of Frost Mages by 20%. Okay. Every 5th Spectral Scythe that hits an enemy hero spawns a Frost Mage. Like,
every 5th? Why 5th?
Every 5th? I mean, granted, it's a scythe that hits. So if you drag the scythe across everybody, you could get 5 hits and therefore get a Frost Mage. But wouldn't it be cooler if that was just 1 hit? Why would that be too absurd when compared to things like Mortal Wounds?
I guess for the scenarios where you're running with it and it gets multiple hits in.
Sure, but we've already got these other absurd talents. We have these amazing wild 20s. Why are we stuck with things like Galloping Gait? Why do we have these really weird outliers where things just aren't very cool? Like, I hate waiting on Junkrat. 2% pick rate there. Junkrat always has Rocket Ride mount. It has 150% movement speed, so it's a really fast mount, but his mount cooldown is set to 8 seconds. Or you could have tires and the Rocket Ride. Like, how do you compete there? That's just unfun.
Yeah, I mean, you're kind of you haven't said it, but you're kind of describing like level 20 power creep to a certain degree, or like feature creep, right? Because like the Zol, like that's not a bad talent. That'll help. Like, why wouldn't you want more slow? Why wouldn't you want to potentially spawn more of the skeletons, or skeletal mages? But there's just better options. And it's like Lunaris is a better example. I'm like, maybe level 20s that just do one thing, like it's not good enough unless that one thing is absolutely bonkers.
And there's some things that are just, been lost in the weeds. Like Morales Safe Zone. Upon exiting a medevac, allies are protected are protected from all damage for 2 seconds. That's at a 2.5% pick rate. If you are going to land your medevac on top of the enemy team, that'll protect you through the CC pile that's going to murder you as you all exit.
Also,
but how often are you really tactically doing that?
Well, if you take that talent, you probably are. But if the enemy team is aware of the fact that you took that talent, could there be a bigger telegraph that there's about to be 2 seconds of unstoppable?
I mean, you can reduce your cooldown by half on medevac. There are other options. This is just so wild and moldy, and I don't think anything gets as moldy as mixing fire for Lucio, which is high 5, can now be targeted on enemy heroes, deals damage, and reduces healing by 50% for 3 seconds. This is at a 2.7% pick rate, and it's been sitting there since its rework.
Yeah, I forgot that existed. I'm going to be completely honest, and I even had the notes up in front of me.
Why would it? That's not Lucio's immediate job. It's a cool idea. But that's not necessarily what I want Lucio paying attention to while he's out there on the battlefield. I mean, Lucio has some other stinkers too, like Summer Anthem at 5%. Like there are a lot of 5, and if it gets up to 10, like I'm okay with it being really situational. It's not a big deal. Like Double Dragon on Lily has a 9% pick rate. So 9% of Lily's pick a full dragon damage Lily. That matches my experience. That's a perfectly fine pick rate for that talent.
That's a great piece of information, because I was curious how you felt about those kind of. Sometimes things are outliers on purpose, and it's fun, and they're cool because they're not picked all the time. But yeah, I don't disagree with your list at all, man.
I mean, why does Illidan have Bolt of the Storm? What?
Oh, that doesn't surprise me. Really? You think it's weird that Illidan has Bolt of the Storm?
When Metamorphosis can teleport you, and yes, you don't get a health bonus and all that sort of thing, and you're bad Illidan for doing it, but like we could retheme that.
Whoa, just sure. You just sped through like all of the reasons you would take Bolt of the Storm.
But I'm saying that like we could then let's apply what we're doing with Diva, what we did with ETC and the Crowd Surfer. Let Illidan have a cooldown reduction if he uses it and it doesn't hit any heroes. Like that's a more interesting 20. We have all these really cool modern approaches to dealing with level 20 talents that aren't being applied to the wide majority of heroes.
You have found your opposite of the over questing trend, where like you kept bringing it up and you're like, I don't like this trend. It's going too far. We need to reel it back in. You have now found the trend that you do like and you want to see more of it.
Yes.
And
Good point.
I dig that. And yeah, dude. So I went to Heroes. My brain went to Heroes I Play.
Sure.
And I was just thinking, I just kept thinking about Death's Advance because it was like, it was boring. It wasn't necessarily a bad talent. It was kind of fun to take it. It was nice to, have a speed boost, but it was boring. And this is 20s in general. We're just not that exciting. I love the new one so very, very much. And it's like fun and cool. I want composite spear. I don't even want anything. This might seem crazy, but I don't like when I say it, I don't want anything crazy. I don't want anything that's like completely out of the realm of what composite spear already does. Can we just have the 4-second cooldown reduction baked in and not be on a clause that says you must hit a hero to get this cooldown reduction?
Increase Ancient Spear's range by 50%. Hitting an enemy here with Ancient Spear grants 25 armor for 4 seconds.
This is such a fun talent. The range from which you can land a spear is insane, but it encourages you to take risks, to really go for a long spear and see if you can hit it. And you get a cooldown reduction, but only if you land the hit on a hero. And so, like, I would like to see, like just give me the 4-second cooldown reduction. Like, empower me to just say, I think I can hit this, and like take a few extra risks that I wouldn't usually, and not feel as punished for missing.
Interesting. What would you feel about something we haven't made use of since the release of Garrosh? What if Mystical Spear at 13, which has its own cooldown reduction, you can hit target, land and pull yourself to it? What if that locked you out of or allowed you to get Composite Spear? I'm talking about.
So you're saying don't change composite sphere, but you can't get it unless you take that 13.
I like your idea, but let's body check is something we haven't explored on our other heroes, and it's a really interesting idea. That if you take access to body check at 1 on Garrosh, you have the option at 20 to take inner rage and augment that body check. Now, granted, it's a really weird example with Garrosh because he does so much in such a very particular way, and we've all come to expect we really don't want to see body check Garroshes. Like that's an experience you have where you see a Garrosh and the enemy time you're like, ooh, that's a cool car. I want to drive that car. And you get in there and you're like, maybe I'll repaint it. I'll come up with my own type of steering. I'm going to do 2 sticks instead of a wheel. And well, why am I not winning? Why am I not winning this race? Oh, I should just drive the car normally.
You just described homebrewed decks in card games.
Yeah, basically. I mean, that's a different scenario because it's 1v1, right? If I want to spend my evening losing with my awful deck, so be it. Which I love doing.
Still, like I still got to see the Hearthstone memes, like dumping on people that play pre-made decks, and I'm just like, welcome to card games. I don't know what you're mad about.
I mean, it is sad. It is like, man.
I
remember. I was
back to my composite sphere thought is like I like the idea of like let's just get nuts, let's try crazy things, and I think like locking composite sphere behind 13 is not that doesn't go towards where I kind of see this trend of things like what happened with Death's Advance.
But what I'm showcasing is that maybe you could have your constant armor if we use these other tricks like we've done on Garrosh. Or we
I don't necessarily want. I guess you would get the like maybe consider. I want the cooldown reduction. I care less about the armor.
But you would get it even if you didn't hit a hero. Is what I'm saying. Like we have these options to make talents really cool, and clearly with the recent ETC update, they showed that they have no fear in messing with heroes who are doing just fine and giving them cool abilities. Who doesn't want a Phoenix that follows them around? Who doesn't want a Phoenix that would encourage your other abilities to work at the same time? Phoenix is extremely safe, by the way. Like it ebbs and flows. It always, oh my goodness. If there's an ability in this game that I think you can just turn around and you're like, okay, I'm safe. I did my research. All right, we're good for a month. Let's go outside now. And then all of a sudden everyone's like, what are you doing with Pyroblast? You're like, what? I thought we were all picking Pyroblast. I thought this was okay now. No, how could you? They have too many interrupts on the enemy side. You'll never get to cast it. You stand still too much in this meta. How dare you? And so you go, oh gosh, that makes perfect sense. I'll cast Phoenix. Don't worry, everybody. I'm a Phoenix player now. Now, a week goes by, and you're wrong again. And you have no good augment for your 20. So,
and I apparently was, I don't know, man. I don't know what I was smoking, but Composite Spirit doesn't have a 4-second cooldown. And apparently no one in our chat room plays so because it took our chat room a long time to correct me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the cooldown reduction is only on Mystical Spear and only if you pull the ground and it's by 5 seconds, not 4.
Oh.
So it's just okay. I guess I just want that baked into Composite Spear. Just give me the cooldown reduction all the time.
And I'm saying you can get that, and we have ways to augment these abilities that could make them more exciting. And there's still there's plenty of great examples like Cassia's Rock Stopper. Like in 3% of games, you might need a bunch of armor. That's perfectly fine the way it is. But there are these really weird ones sitting around, and I would love to just see the Notebook unleashed. I bet you there are just huge piles of balanced things that might be too scandalous for Reddit that we should just get off your plate, balance designers. Just dump it into the trash. Be free of it. or put it in the trash. Put it in a small box. Does it spark joy? Yes. Let's clean up all these random things. Doing a good job
of it, right? Like last week, you spent a lot of time talking about how you really liked the post HGC approach at balance design, and I feel like we've been on that forever, and we haven't had a lot of particularly subtle patches, and I think that's why we're getting pushed back against this patch, because it was a particularly subtle patch. And And we're going longer between patches. Like at the end of the day, we didn't bring that up in our conversation at the top of the show. Probably should have. Because if we were going to go a full month between updates, you know, the last one, it wasn't that interesting. Like, to just be honest. Like, it was a lot of very subtle tweaks or shoring up talents that nobody picked and don't have a frame of reference to be excited.
That's a fair go of it.
Yeah, I'm totally fine with them taking longer, and I just expected it. Frankly, I look at 2019 and most of 2020 in disbelief that we kind of kept up the updates that frequently in this game. But yeah, last patch is a sleeper.
To me, it showcased something so exciting, and I feel like there's more, like mind control. I'm not talking about new graphics. I'm not talking about getting. Maybe I am going to talk a little bit about getting real crazy, but mind control's bad on Sylvanas. In comparison, right? Like, we got a 50-second cooldown for a skill shot, 0.25 second wind up, hit heroes silent slowed and forced to walk towards you, which that still conflicts with what I feel like is a safety move for Sylvanas. I don't really want you by me. I want you at a nice, safe distance. Like, let's say you walk towards me and stop at 3 range. That sounds kind of nice.
Oh, because you could kite them and leash them back.
Right, it would just don't touch me because I'm Sylvanas.
That would be so. Oh, and you got it. Like, imagine you get down to the perfect stutter step speed where you're leashing them on your swing timer, and that'd be wonderful.
But why can't? What's holding us back there? I mean, Dark Lady's Call, the level 20 augment, has a 4% pick rate, which is really high, like absurdly high. Heroes hit by mind control have their vision greatly reduced for 5 seconds. Mind control's cooldown is reduced by 30 seconds. Like, what crazy? These are Storm League stats too. What crazy person is out there being like, you know, I know I'm showing an opinion here, but I just feel like you're saying, I made it a mistake at 10. Don't worry. I'm going to double down at 20. We're going to make this happen. Mind
control is fun, is the stance I'm going to take. It feels great when you land it. And all the other times you didn't, and you wonder why you took it. But it feels really cool when you take it. So why would you not double down into it if you take it on purpose?
It's fair. Fair.
You could still do. But I'm with you, man. That's only boring because the part that's awesome about it is an insane cooldown reduction.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like, that's actually kind of rad, and yeah, like I don't need every 20 to be some ridiculous fireworks show.
No,
not every single. There's too many 20s. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe we should just like have the 20s, or you know, maybe I don't know, like it, because clearly it doesn't work for some heroes. Like the copy paste our conversation we had about Kael'thas. All right, we don't want to empower his heroics, you know, and maybe if you chase it and you try to pump up the 2 heroic 20s for Kael'thas, it just doesn't work. It just doesn't go anywhere. And so, like, well, why keep chasing it? Why not just like take that out? Just remove it. You know, apply this conversation to Zeratul and what just happened. Well, they just tried to shore up the new 20s, but he got those new 20s all the way back in what, June?
Yeah.
So, like, and they've done that before, right? Like they've made calls to remove talents from the game. Usually we get a new talent in place, but at a certain point, it's like, do we need to have X amount of 20s? Is there a real reason we're chasing this many options at the top?
Well, with some heroes are very limited, or so you can say. When you see 3, your brain kind of goes, "Oh man, surely there could be more." But then you get to Leoric, who's got 5, and you're like, "What happened here? What 5 20s?" And I mean, we got Buried Alive, which silences damage dealing now inside the Entomb, which is awesome, and a huge power spike. Death March, which can completely turn around a game, huge team fight potential with applying Drain Hope to the heroes you hit in the area of your March of the Black King. Going in order, we got like Shroud of the Death King. You become protected for 3 seconds. You got Burning Despair, which I actually see from time to time. But then there's like Hardened Bones, gain 50 armor while Drain Hope is active. That to me, that's one that doesn't really take advantage or doesn't highlight what people want to do at 20 in Heroes of the Storm. Because that on paper is really cool. 50 armor. All right. And 2 seconds after it's over. All right. Like that's resistant bone man. Perfect. But we want to feel like we're winning with that 20. And I think that's where we butt heads with Arthas as well. There has to be something else to it that gives you that winning destructive feel, like even Burning Despair does, where now you have an aura around you, 40 damage per second. The damage in areas increase by 100% while Drain Hope is active. That's aggressive.
Yeah. Yeah, like the other place my brain went was I tried to recall from memory what the hell the level 20 Hyperion talent for Raynor was, and like I couldn't. I had to go look it up. And it's kind of like what you've been asking for. It's like give him some pepper, lowers the cooldown of Hyperion for 5 seconds. But that's just, I don't know. For some reason, like it's not enough. It's not like go execute every time. That's what everyone else is doing.
Yeah, Raynor's a really interesting one because we have a lot, like execute is running away with it. We have Indomitable Resolve at 6%, Dustwing at 6.5, and Weak Spot Acquired at 9%. Execute is absolutely the pick there. Indomitable Resolve is really cool on paper. With the Gims of Pepper, as you said, lowering the cooldown of Hyperion. Inspire grants Raynor Unstoppable. That's a weird disconnect because I don't feel like I need to be unstoppable if my tank's doing the right job. I need to kill people, I'm going to go execute. So we end up in this weird sort of loopy-doo situation. And maybe these are all quick match talents. Maybe that Unstoppable is really good in quick match, and we're just...
Maybe it is.
And when I'm saying, like, Leoric doesn't need 50 armor if he can murder the whole enemy team, survive by having Drain Hopes on everybody, he's best of both worlds. Maybe 50 armor in quick match where you're the only darn tank is okay. So I wonder how much we're balancing around our most played version of the game. And I don't want to get into a conversation, and I'm not really interested in the idea that someone is picking talents, therefore they have bad game knowledge, or the game is teaching them to play bad because mind control is available on Sylvanas. That's fun is fun at the end of the day.
Yeah, I'm not interested in that take that you just mentioned there. All right, so we beat around the bush the entire conversation. How do we feel about generic 20s? How do we feel about Rewind? How do we feel about Storm Shield?
Yeah, that's an interesting thought, because a Nubarak, it's extremely seductive because we have stuns and we make beetles.
It's the Kalthas scenario where it's just like, oh, the base kit is god tier. How do I make the base kit even better? Like, and that's where I fall on this is I love Rewind. The Storm Shield makes me want to go to sleep. And it just comes down to the quality of the two talents. Storm Shield is extremely boring, in my opinion.
Let's not move on too quickly, though, because Rhaegar has Rewind. And
that's the one that feels weird to me. That is Nova also has Rewind, and it's extremely underpicked. But like Nova is very much like her own genre. Right. Rhaegar feels weird. To me, Rewind makes sense on a Nubarak and makes sense on Muradin. But Rhaegar? You want to like what? Like cross the totem streams? Like what are you doing?
It's an interesting one. Let's talk about Nova real quick, because there you can see the appeal in a sense. Like you have burst, you're sniping single characters, so you go button, and then click button, and it feels real good for 16% of people. That sounds okay. The Novas I see that I love are doing really weird stuff like using precision barrage to lane clear at the enemy's core so the catapults connect. Like they're thinking weird macro stuff with their 3D chest stealth business, and I really, really appreciate it. It gives her a very big role beyond just, you take that sort of lane clear, I'm going to position strike lanes, and you mix it with some bribe, and you've got a really interesting hero that's participating in a number of different ways rather than just being a stealth poke machine. But we're not interested in rewind there, and that's kind of fascinating, and I absolutely understand it in comparison to something like fast reload or precision barrage, where you get that second charge and a 30-second cooldown, no less.
Yeah, that's there's a lot of risk involved with rewind on Nova because it's skill shots that like you need to like it's on you to extract value from rewind, whereas precision barrage or fast reload, it's more like the risk of value reward is much lower. It's basically non-existent for barrage and very easy to understand if you are actually going to get that value or not from fast reload.
Rhaegar's interesting because I think his base kit isn't powerful enough to warrant the rewind.
No, it isn't. It isn't. It's easy to look at it and say, well, it does just equal more healing, right? Because rewind means double chain heal.
Yeah.
But that's like, do you really care about double storm shield? Okay, that's a little enticing. Okay, all right. I'm off. I'm out of the interest sphere once we bring up totem. I'm just like, oh boy, I can have 2 totems. Who cares? My bloodlust could last a lot longer. That sounds a lot more exciting.
I mean, it clearly didn't come up in my rundown of let's actually see what the pick rate is for Rhaegar, because it didn't come up in my rundown of lowest pick talents. So clearly it's being taken 7.6. Okay.
It's low, man. It's
pretty
low.
lame.
Yeah. Storm Shield does 30%. Like it's second only to Gladiator's Warship.
Well, let's use that as the bridge then and talk about Storm Shield a little bit, because it is for Rhaegar, a 20% max health shield for everyone around you really shores up your kit.
Oh, 100%. I'm not trying to make an argument that Storm Shield doesn't do work. I'm trying to make an argument that I don't want to take it because it's boring and it's 20 and it's a celebration of we made it. We're here. We're gods. I get a little shield effect on a very long cooldown that might save some bacon.
Johanna's shield is 25% max health for 3 seconds as well, blinded by the light, but it has a augment on it that hitting heroes with shield glare reduces the cooldown of the ability by 8 seconds.
So can I hit heroes with chain heal to reduce the cooldown on storm shield? We call it shaman shield.
Well, it's extra interesting on Johanna, and the reason why I occasionally take it is because I don't have a reason to blind. And I think that's kind of the subtlety, and I probably discovered on accident because at first I think Johanna, Lily came out before Johanna, right? So Lily invented blinds. Okay.
Oh, I didn't really think about who invented blinds, but I'm gonna lean Lily. Yeah, that makes sense.
I'm doing a little scroll action here. I got Uther, Nazebo, Lily. Oh yeah, Lily was quite a ways before. We had Thrall, Jaina, Asmodan, Anubarak, Chen, the Butcher, Johanna, and all that sort of business.
Yeah.
So, but Johanna, by accident, is really good at not dealing with auto attackers. Like, she's got these kits for dealing with them, but, pre maybe Iron Skin nerf there in terms of cooldown, she's really good against mages. And when you can be in a game where you don't need blind for any reason at all, Sins Exposed, using Holy Renewal to heal yourself, and then getting something like Blinded by the Light is huge. So is there a way we could make Rhaegar's Storm Shield augment his abilities in a way to cast the things you don't need? And the first thing I think of is Totem. There's an extreme case, 1 in 100 games where I've gone Totem build. And it wrecked, and it was awesome. And it was exactly what we needed. But let's take these abilities, these towns, these 20s, and make them work with the kit when we're not needing that kit.
When you don't need the kit? Oh, so
exactly.
Yeah,
like
back to your
on
blind on Johanna. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. It's a good example. That's an actionable thought, which is refreshing after this week on Reddit. Yeah. To me, it just comes down to I like rewind, and I almost wish it existed on more heroes, not less. Even though I don't think it makes sense on Rhaegar, and keep it on Nova. I think it's a cool niche pick on Nova. I don't get it on Rhaegar at all.
That's okay. And in Nova, we're also dealing with Apollo suit, which is even lower pick. So it's not exactly coming up first concern here.
Yeah.
And there are certainly those heroes that absolutely shouldn't have it. It would be really weird on Mephisto because that undermines his entire kit of hitting heroes.
Right. Yeah, you can see why it doesn't exist on a hero like that. And that's not necessarily what I'm asking. I'm not saying like just throw it on everyone like your favorite condiment. But it's, I don't know, it's interesting because you and I have always talked about like generic talents and them being patched out of the game is like a generally good thing, because like block has gotten so much more interesting across multiple heroes, even though we kind of want all of them to work like Sonya now because it just works so damn well. But like in the grand scheme of things, we've looked at it as a positive. And yet I think Rewind is kind of this outlier where I'm like, I really like it on the heroes that it's on, Rhaegar excluded. And I think it could be interesting to actually give Rewind to another hero or two and see what happens. But it's like the only example of that I can really think of, where it's like, here's a generic talent that I'm glad is still around.
Let's use all these cool tools we showcased in the previous patch to update all these really weird outliers, like High Five build for Lucio, like Mind Control perhaps, and see what we can do. I'm really excited for the future. That's why I think the patch was a 9 out of 10 for a rhythmic kind of thing. And it didn't mess with tanks, which is nice. So,
there's exciting things in it, man. Like I'm not saying it's like the worst thing ever. It's just, it was subtle. Like what sent you off on this was like one example. And I think it would have been cooler if there were a lot more of those examples in the same patch. Because we've had patches in the past where it's like, oh, this is the armor patch, or this is the mana patch, or this is the health patch. And it's cool to see that. And it's cool to see them manipulate in the way. And I don't want every patch to be like that, but
no, and I don't want everything to be like Crowd Surfer. Like, I don't need a talent if Misha doesn't hit a target cooldown on Misha, because sometimes you do the gallop in order to dodge a stun and get her out. Like, that's not necessary.
Yeah. No, I'm
it might be actually, now that I say that, well, we're sitting here with what? Spirit Link, right? Spirit Link, or Spirit Bond, is at a 9% pick rate. So maybe we could throw that on there.
Here, I thought we were going to make it out of an episode without mentioning Rexar.
Okay, sorry. I saw Zagara this week in a game. It was very exciting.
Oh, man, I miss Zagara so much.
That's my carrot dangle there.
I miss it. I really miss her. Please. Like, although I gotta say, I'm legitimately looking forward to the Diva rework. I'm just like, can we push Diva to the side and let's work on Zagara?
They said that there's going to be a German stream for Gamescom, like a German language stream. So I'm not sure what's going on there. But
Gamescom started today. That's where the Shadowlands cinematic came from.
Oh yeah, the animatic, the moving picture.
They still call it cinematics, but yeah, it's an animatic. You're absolutely right. I mean, they've done these for the last 3 expansions. Yeah. Draenor was the first one I remember it.
Draenor was my favorite of them all. I thought that was great.
It was okay. You got Broody, Gul'dan, and that was cool. I liked Legions better.
Well, Legion and even BFA, like all their cartoons they're doing, do help tell the story, and I think the BFA ones are really good at that. But to me, it was all about kicking bosses' butts, and whether or not Warlords performed well, I had a lot of like Borderlands level hype going into Warlords of Draenor, because every time you met one of the main bad guys, it would be like, gung gung name. I'm like, I want to kick their butt someday. And the game was like, you're gonna, don't you worry. And then
you're describing exactly what I hated. Like, I hated a lot about BFA, or not BFA, Warlords of Draenor, but I thought that was so cheesy and terrible. But I also don't really like Borderlands, so I guess this makes sense.
I mean, you also don't like Skyrim, so what can,
I love Skyrim. Excuse me. It is the only Bethesda game that is legitimately good.
Okay. Maybe back,
if we're just gonna if you want to like tap into harsh opinions that I hold, Borderlands and hype are things I constantly see in sentences together and wonder why.
It was a different time. I was listening to the Bastion soundtrack this week, and I was like, good soundtrack, cool. It developed so much. I don't really want, like Batman Arkham. I don't really want to play it.
Loved it.
It helped us get there.
Loved it at the time. Don't want to return to it.
No, because it was Assassin's Creed into Batman, and you're like, 2 people countered at the same time. This game's so advanced, I can't believe it. I could watch this all day.
I hope everybody enjoyed this mini aside. I hope it's great.
Yes.
But yeah, Gamescom started today. So maybe there'll be something. Who knows? But shall we take a question or two before we wrap this up?
Let's do that.
Darkness stopped calling.
Darkness just texted me.
It's not the moment, it's a hero brawler!
You can send your emails to itncast@gmail.com. If you're a patron, you can skip the inbox entirely and just drop us a message right there in the patron Discord. We got a questions for the show channel. Check it out. LDAP writes in and says, do you think the focus of the CCL, Heroes Lounge, and NGS should be to classify organized play of HOTS and pro play as esports, or do you think the HOTS community should reject the esports classification and redefine it based on the game and game modes? Go on. The cancellation of HGC event traumatized the HOTS community, causing so much suffering. Now that we see people returning, I fear chasing after esports recognition will hurt the growing community and draw comparisons to more successful mobile esports, which is like comparing shooting a bullet and throwing one, with HOTS being the throwing one. We do need organized play, though. It is probably the best and most intense HOTS experience playing in an organized team. Just don't think calling HOTS organized play an esport will be healthy given the past, and think we need a better term like O-play, organized Storm League, or even professional Storm League. Thoughts?
That's actually I kind of like the idea of professional Storm League because factors in.
Oh, well,
factors in that you climbed in Storm League and then you joined this tournament because of Storm League, and
only if all of them follow the same rule of you need to be master or grandmaster to even have a chance of getting into this, and we use this to seed it or build teams or whatever it is. Storm League needs to have a very direct factor in how this league runs if we're gonna brand it that way. But you're not. We call it, what's bigger than a storm, Kyle? We call it Hurricane or Typhoon League.
We could.
We call it Hurricane League for NA, and we can call it Typhoon League for Europe.
Tropical Depression League, yeah.
that just sounds depressing.
But but that's something to talk about here. It's something that I feel like we quickly overcame on this show. We weren't extremely tied to esports, but it was something that was taken for granted. It was just going to happen.
We were extremely privileged because we weren't very tied to esports. The truth of it is tons of people just lost their jobs instantly.
Yeah. And that trauma, as our emailer here puts it, is intense. Yeah. And when you listen to these interviews coming up about the CCL, they do not want Blizzard involved. They don't want Blizzard touching it, being a part of prize pools, increasing those prize pools, doing giveaways, anything, because Blizzard isn't trusted by them. Everything could be gone at a drop of a hat. They could perhaps be like, hey, why don't we lighten your load? We'll run the brackets for you guys. How about we'll get a community manager, we'll run the brackets. That's horrifying to them because at any moment that could just disappear and ruin everything. And then the emails start, and Asmo Gold reacts on YouTube about. I was like, what? I think it all comes crashing down.
Still one of our highest viewed YouTube videos of all time. Was our HGC cancellation clip that I put up because it broke while we were doing a show. I don't think we've had a rawer reaction to something in our 10-year history of doing shows together, man. But it's. I don't know. I get where you're coming from, and I love having conversations about branding and what do we call this? But at the end of the day, it's it's semantics. To me, I look at this as someone who came in from StarCraft 2, and it's full circle. Because the early days of StarCraft 2 and Celebrity, it was actually community driven. It was actually grassroots. Even the bigger things felt a little rough around the edges. You went to MLG and you're just oh yeah, there's some branding in some places, but then there's just, 500 feet of nothing until you get to a NOS kiosk giving away free energy drinks.
Yeah.
There was a by our bootstraps, we buy gamers for gamers feeling to it all. And that still exists. We're not used to it.
It was creepy though. It did get like there's times where you felt like you're gonna go get your free Dr. Pepper there, and then you walk by and a guy's like, "Hey kid, you want to be an esports star?" And you're like, "Yeah, what do I gotta do?" And like, "Come with me in the back here. We're gonna make you a star." And like, what the hell? Some of the guys are kind of sleazy. It got kind of weird.
100%, because it was the early days of this blowing up. Like what you and I are discussing is pre-Twitch. Like,
that's a good point.
We're dinosaurs, man. We're just dinosaurs that survived the asteroid. Like, we've seen some shit.
We're a bunch of weird little moles that are going to turn into half deers with buck teeth. Like,
and you know what, folks? Everyone listening to the sound of our voices, you are too, because the asteroid was the death of HGC, and we are still here.
Yeah, that's true.
So, you want some clout? It fell off the back of a truck. That's all I can think of now. But it doesn't matter, dude. Like, this exists in other games. We are in a way spoiled by Blizzard. It's now all coming home to roost. HCC cancel it. Heroes got hit the hardest, but like Hearthstone got gutted and forced to go to YouTube, where barely anyone watches it anymore. I guess WoW's still going fine. I still really like MGS, but or MDI. No, what the hell is that?
You talking about the
Mythic Dungeon Invitational? I like the Mythic Dungeon stuff. I've never been a big arena fan, but like it's on a backslide. You and I have had this conversation before. We're like Blizzard somewhat fell victim to like the MMO craze of itself, right? But like everyone else did way worse. Everyone else started chasing MMOs, and no one was able to beat World of Warcraft, and entire studios went under as a result, right? Blizzard like chased esports, and they chased it too hard, and that was like their MMO crash, in my opinion.
No, they wanted control. It was a control freak time in the Blizzard history. We had the Diablo 3 auction house because they wanted to control the market there, which is an innocent enough and money made, so maybe not innocent is the right word, but yeah, you can understand why that would be a goal of theirs.
It was one that at the time on paper I looked at like Diablo 3 auction house, and I'm like, I mean, it's that or like shady websites that are probably gonna steal my money or give me a virus. To me it seemed like a win-win, and then it came out and you're like, oh, this completely kills the entire gameplay loop of this game.
Yeah, and how funny that I don't have that opinion about the auction house. And wow, when I
it's very different. There's like a lot more restrictions on gear like there than existed.
That's true with the Soulbound thing going on and all that.
We're getting lost in the weeds here. So my point is like more grassroots esports efforts have always existed and still exist. We are just no longer really used to them in Blizzard. And we're definitely not used to it if like all you've really experienced is Heroes of the Storm. If that was your first and only esports experience, it is dramatic. It's rough because you had something that was lighting money on fire. It was so well produced. Like they were just throwing money at this thing. It was beautiful. There was great talent involved, but it wasn't a good return on investment. And it was just not long for this world. But
that's true. It was a really nice money fire though. Like we're talking like Joker levels of money fire.
Yeah,
it was,
but this
I wanted to watch it burn.
This exists outside of Blizzard esports. Like there's a lot of, smaller fighting game esports that do great and have been forever. It exists within Blizzard. StarCraft 1, Brood War still has a great competitive scene. Warcraft 3, it never really went away. As much as the headlines and websites were covering Reforged not living up to expectations, it doesn't matter. There was always Warcraft 3 fans there. Reforged did actually kind of, have a pretty big disruption to that.
Yes, it was a negative experience for the community.
Yeah, but Brood War lives on. StarCraft 2 is not nearly what it was in terms of popularity, but it is still doing great. It is still healthy, even though like Blizzard more or less pulled out of it their involvement of that around the same time. Or I think it was a year later, wasn't it? It was a year later where they were like, WCS is that ain't happening anymore. But like, I still watch GSL. It's freaking amazing. It's great. It's actually really well produced. And I'm not saying that Heroes Esports is going to reach that level, but you can still call it esports. Esports does not mean like exclusively multi-million-dollar production levels in arenas.
Can you, I know it's kind of stereotypical to say, well, what's going to happen with the children? But what is going to happen to freaking Fortnite kids, man? Like, they have a new Marvel event going on over there. They got all the characters flying around fighting Galactus. Like, how are they going to respect a grassroots esport event? They know nothing but joy and full bellies and good times. Like, we went from bringing Halo boxes to each other's houses, learning what fire wires were so we could connect them together, multiple TVs with cardboard on them to divide the screens.
To that, I would say, Kyle, there's nothing really stopped us from chasing Fortnite. You don't always have to go for the biggest thing. There will always be people finding value in the smaller stages. Like, it's all relative. Like, why didn't we just start with World of Warcraft? There were about 2 podcasts to every 1 player of the game when we started podcasting. But then nothing stopped. Why did we go for StarCraft? A game that it didn't matter. We didn't know shit. But you know what we did know, Kyle? We knew StarCraft 2 was not going to have as many players as World of Warcraft.
That's true.
And we did it anyway because we wanted to get started. We had a plan. There was a reason we went for StarCraft 2. It was because it was brand new and we had beta access, and we were like,
and raw passion. We just love the heck out of these.
There was also a scheme. We had a scheme. Don't walk it back.
Sure.
Like,
sure.
We had a plan. We're like, well, we don't know much, but we know we should probably not go into crowded space, and we should probably start somewhere where we can start at the ground floor. And that was StarCraft 2.
That's fair.
Just so happened that I was also really stoked for the sequel to StarCraft.
We were really into it. I was already really into StarCraft in the first place, so it was a perfect match. And just like Heroes has been in terms of my passion for MOBAs.
Yeah.
But I also enjoy covering. I enjoy doing all the background research. I'm just saying, like, grassroots. I don't know if the new kids are going to appreciate what a grassroots is when they've got nothing but good times.
Some will, dude. Like, I don't know. It's I look at it like I do like music, you know. Yeah. Folks are going to be, you know, like when we were growing up, I don't know who was like the biggest, like, yeah, some folks are going to be like really jazzed and like Eminem and Beyonce. I don't know. Those are the 2 things that came to my mind. But, you know, I was going to $13 punk shows at the local rundown theater. Like, that still exists, and it exists. It's just, it changes forms, it changes flavors. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, maybe that's a good example too, because I really appreciated when I went to bands like that you could be right there, and when the violinists finished their crazy thing that went over the techno song, you could be like, dude, that was badass. And they'd be like, thank you, person. Yeah. And 5 people in the audience. I appreciate that.
Because, yeah, at a certain level, like, that will always exist. There will always be like the extremely like multi-million, billion-dollar experience that's well produced, but is inaccessible. And there will always be the other side of that where it's still production and it's still passion and it's still something you're interested in, but it's smaller and it is more accessible and it's more nurturing to the scene and to the next generation. Like, I don't see that stuff ever going away. It just starts to look better, like across the board. Like, go look at like our first streams from when, like, the dawn of Twitch when we were still doing StarCast. It looked like butt. Look at these overlays now. Look at them. It's great. We couldn't do this before. Like,
you frankly look amazing. You have a blurred out background, high fidelity camera. Your hair looks great.
Well, I mean, the hair hasn't changed, but thank you on everything else. I know my hair looks great. My hair always looks wonderful. But,
okay, well, I didn't mean to.
Like, I don't know. I look at all of that. Like, and also like the kids who were in the Fortnite and then maybe go to start their own thing. They're going to take those production values, the things they've learned from something that is exceptionally well put together, and it's just gonna make the stuff that doesn't have as much of a budget behind it still look awesome.
That's true. But we do have a related question from none other than Not Paradox.
Oh, Not Paradox says, what are Kyle and Garrett's thoughts on the words pro when used in the context of HOTS? For Super Smash Brothers, the pros are people who have won major events, but major events prize winnings can be as low as $500, making their average income lower than CCL or even lower than many of the events I have run. Does this mean there is an arbitrary line in the sand about skill level or something else? My real question is, when can I go back to my series, Why the Pros Play? I should have saved this for the next time Paradox was on. We could just had a conversation with him. I haven't thought. There's another one where it's like, oh, is this semantics? But yeah, it is.
I have a
very
LDAP's
strong question, it is, but it's also interesting. What is your strong opinion on this?
I think that the Roman army was a professional army and they dominated the Mediterranean. I think if you're full-time, you're a pro. I think you have to be fully committed to be considered a pro. Only thing you're doing, training all day. And, you know, you're like taking care of your mental health, going outside, you know, working out, like, yeah. But you're
I think that's
dedicated.
fair. That's where my brain goes as well. It's less about the money involved than the time or the effort spent. But a lot of times those two things kind of need to coincide for like the reality of the world that we live in. Like the time that's spent to be the pro that you just described, you're going to need to find ways to pay bills.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting considering our grassroots history, the age of people at the time, and now COVID. Like full time. I'm not being rude here. Like, you know, there's no mother's basements involved, but a lot of these people were full time because they were living at their parents' place, and their winnings got them pretty far in that regard without any rent or anything. And they were able to amass massive amounts of skills, eventually getting picked up by a team in their like early 20s, flying over to Korea, doing boot camps against other teams, having full support, jerseys, sponsors, endless. What were we drinking back then? Red Bull. We were drinking Red Bull back then.
I am still drinking Red Bull. It's my favorite. Please sponsor us. I want free Red Bull.
All right, endless Red Bulls to keep them going. And now I would have much higher standards that I'd want pros to live under. But also we're in heroes, and those pros returning are like old Heroes of the Dorm winners who are now in their mid-20s, and I want them to have a decent paycheck and not live with their parents anymore. And again, not in a bad way. Like if you love your parents and it's an awesome arrangement,
it's like an example too, right? Like a lot of them did it while at college, where like student loans or scholarships or whatever were like keeping a roof over their head, and you know, maybe they were spending a little more time playing the game instead of their studies. You know.
Sure. Yeah, that's actually very true too. Maybe it wasn't necessarily, but maybe it was on a parental dime, even if not in the abode.
If I could have made money doing normal raids during Wrath of the Lich King, I would have been a pro normal raider.
So that's a low bar there.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
I mean, I ran an improv troupe in college and made most of my raids, so I thought I did pretty well. I was a solid. I made the dean's list. I got a cum laude.
Right? I did not.
Or is it Suma? I don't remember which.
I did not.
One of them, the lesser one.
I didn't quite understand how to play the game yet.
See that's first lesson for Flynn. You gotta write what the teachers want to see, not what you think a good paper would be.
Yeah, I didn't figure that out until I could barely pay rent, graduating into a horrible recession.
Maybe that's why I play tank the way I do.
Then I was like, oh, you just need to figure out. Yeah, you need to figure out the box they expect you to fit in sometimes.
These mosh pits aren't for me, they're for you.
Be the mosh pit your team needs, not the one you want to see.
Exactly.
But yeah, I'm with you, dude. Like, but you could also do it full time and not be what I would consider a pro, because there's also just like content creators. Like this isn't as common in Heroes of the Storm, but it's very common over in Hearthstone, where you're full time and you're not in Grandmasters, you're not like a top tier player, but you know you're very successful. This is your full time gig. You're playing Hearthstone, 6 days a week.
No, that's fair. And I wouldn't consider them pro because they're pro at Adobe, Photoshop and things of that nature. Like
they're pro at memes.
Yeah. Their hours have to go other places. That's why, what was it? Dignitas? One of our teams back near the end of HGC was trying to get into streaming, and it was immensely hard for them because the players weren't very social, frankly, and that was expected. Oh my goodness, what a whole other skill set to have outside of just playing the damn video game. And and they were required to on top of their practice time. So it was a horrible mental tax on them. And then you got people coming in the chat saying you suck or you messed up or why didn't you do this and that. And like the full time also comes with the team support, which to me comes with mental health protection and making sure that the team is absorbing through community managers and whatnot any vitriol that comes at you because you did a bad mosh pit.
Yeah. it's a good piece to have, right? So, I think full time. I don't know about the boot camps because I feel like I haven't heard about that in forever.
No, it was such a cool feature, but yeah, it's not as useful as it once was.
I mean, now it's like
useful.
it's scrims now. You scrim against other teams. Like that's what I hear that all the time. Like it's not a term in Hearthstone because again it's 1v1, but you have your practice partners. It's the same basic concept.
We also have a turn-based game, which is probably less ping dependent. I bet you if we had modern internet, how was our internet in 2011? Maybe you had to go to Korea not only because you were going to face off with the teams and communicate, but you also didn't have ping. That would ruin your entire experience.
I got fiber as soon as I moved back to Florida. So not that it was everywhere, but it was available in some places. But I couldn't get it when I was in LA. It was cable or nothing.
Yeah.
And as always with cable, like the downloads are great. The upload is butt. So, but yeah. I think good thoughts. I like that these blended together. So thank you, Eldad. Thank you, Not Paradox. I enjoyed this chat quite a bit. And I didn't expect this to become such a deep philosophical look at the esports landscape, but I'm glad we had this chat. Thanks for sparking everybody.
It's an unknown territory for Heroes because we were so supported when it got going, and I'm really curious to see where all this ends up. Balance, the esport itself, or Professional Storm League, as we'll call it.
Yeah,
I'll call it.
Yeah. Keep the emails coming, itncast@gmail.com. And again, if you're a patron, just drop us a message in the Discord. That's going to bring us to the end of this episode. And speaking of our patrons, I want to thank you one more time so much for your support. We really do appreciate it. We would not be able to put as much time into the show as we do. So check it out, patreon.com/ITN. If you like our podcast and you want to support us. Huge thanks, by the way, to our producers, Declan H., Cheesy Bob, Chris K., and Mike C. Thank you very much for your generous support, you four. If you want to become a producer, we have one slot left. Haven't had one open in a while, so go check out patreon.com/ITN to become a producer. You can catch us live Thursdays, usually around 3-ish p.m. Eastern time at twitch.tv/amovetv for the live show. Come hang out in the chat room. Fine folks here, as always. You can follow the show on Twitter at ITNcast. But other than that, we do more than just Into the Nexus. Kyle, where can folks find you when you're not just ITNing?
You can find me over at kylefergusson.com, where you can find the first episode of Season 6 of DM Gives Inspiration, the 5th edition Learn to Play Dungeon Master show. A little bit of player information there as well. Talking about how to get your players to roll more interesting skill checks for you and help tell a story in that regard. You should also check out youtube.com/heroeshearth, where Monday will be posted the Chromie counter guide, which I think we'll all be needing, unless a Swift balance patch comes in to deal with that W build.
I'm ready to start giving her a shot. Like everyone I talk to, they're like, dude, it's okay if you don't know how to play Chromie. You'll figure it out.
Just spam, see what you hit. It'll be fine.
You'll sort it out.
Yeah.
Folks, I am Garrett Art on Twitter, amove.tv for this show and every single other podcast that I produce. Just put out a brand new Angry Chicken last night, talking about the new Battlegrounds patch in Hearthstone and kind of why Lich King and Maiev are now the top tier heroes by a landslide freaking victory.
Interesting.
Well, they buffed Lich King and he was amazing. And Maev's just been consistently moving up the charts as we've learned to play her.
Wait. They buffed Lich King again?
A week ago.
Wait, so you used to be able to target your Reborn. Now what does it do?
Now you can target it and it costs no gold to do so. It's free.
Oh,
so there is no reason not to do it.
What an ass.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he's a top hero right now. Him or Maiev. So Lich King is the top for, I believe, the top 50% and lower. And Maiev is the top for top 20% of the player base.
I know I could go listen to Angry Chicken. I'm sorry to ask you, but Maiev, why? I'm supposed to be like, I can't afford this now. I'd like to buy it later kind of thing?
You're getting 3 gold worth of value for 1 gold. It's just an insane economy play.
Oh, I didn't get that. I thought it would show up in the shop and I could buy it again with a plus on it.
That's Galakron, and he is the worst hero in the game for obvious reasons.
Oh.
Galakron effing sucks.
Yeah, so I get it for 1 gold. I just have to wait a little bit.
You have to wait 2 turns, and it gets buffed. You get a +1/+1.
Does it technically disappear from the pool?
Yes, you would be pausing it. It's the same thing happens if you freeze minions. That holds them for a turn from the pool.
Oh, okay. So it's not like I could grab like the baby dragon, and then there'd be a chance of getting more baby dragons while that thing's frozen in time.
There is still a chance, but not that one. There's a finite number of the red whelp that you're, I believe, talking about. But that would reduce the chances by one. So yeah,
learning card games is the most destructive thing to video game fun there is in the video game world.
I disagree. Because once you learn the rules, you know exactly when you're supposed to break them, and you feel like a genius.
That's maybe true. You appreciate your own genius more, but there is like a full-blown like childhood is over when you learn about value. When someone sits you down and they're like, by the way, hey, 3 mana for a 3/3, that's all right.
That doesn't mean that I don't sometimes pick lower win rate heroes on purpose because I just want to have a good time, and that's what's fun about Battlegrounds.
It's that hump you got to get over. It's tough.
If you want to know exactly why Lich King and Maiev are totally gross and exactly how to play them, straight up did like a strategy segment on it on last night's episode. So go check that out. And also we talk more about the Battle Pass because apparently there is a Battle Pass coming to Hearthstone because the devs keep talking about it even though it hasn't been officially announced. So anyways, check that out.
Are they going to be too late? Oh my goodness. I was looking up Google trends for loot boxes, and it was April that Heroes did loot boxes for 2.0. And then 2 months later was the big loot box just fall apart. Are they really going to battle pass right before battle passes fall apart?
I don't think any countries are trying to ban battle passes or mark them as gambling to completely ruin the industry that is video games, which caused that change to be reductive. So I think we're fine. I like battle passes, frankly. Like the games that I like that have them, I enjoy them. I really like it in COD. I liked it in Apex while we were into that game. So I don't think I think it's a great evolution of loot boxes, although loot boxes were terrible. But anyways, check that out. And we're doing a new WoW killer tomorrow now that we have a release date for Shadowlands and the new animatic Afterlives. That's going to wrap it up for the show, everybody. Thank you for listening. And until next time, good luck and have fun.
Take care.